I was that curious about the Smashing Machine. Initially, upon release of the trailer, I wasn't so curious. I was like, oh shit, The Rock again. He's trying to put on his actor hat, and remember, he's got to act when the camera's on and shit, right? But then you started hearing about, oh, The Rock's gonna go for the Oscar this time around. He's got Oscar buzz around the film. It's like, yeah, the fuck right. Come on, get out of here. And then whatever film festival it premiered at, allegedly, supposedly, people stood up and started clapping for 17 minutes for, of all things, the Smashing Machine. Now, Dwayne is known to recount history as he chooses to see it and or gaslight you into thinking you're enjoying something that he did when really you barely remember it or you barely want to remember it. So I'm just assuming 17 minutes of a standing applause at the end of the Smashing Machine could have just been maybe like a minute or two of polite, at most like golf clapping from the audience, considering the man's right there. He's gigantic, big, brown, and tattooed, so he's going to rip my head off if I don't clap audibly enough to be heard. In comparison to the woo wah and shit, 17 minutes worth of that shit for the Smashing Machine, which is sad, and very sad to see, and very sad to behold. Because I'll start off with this. As you can tell, obviously, I'm not a fan of The Rock's acting. The Rock, to me, as I mentioned, one-trick pony. He is the type of guy, the type of actor, again, actor, heavy emphasis on that will try his best to put on the hat as far as what the role requires. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson as a big-ass firefighter. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson as a big-ass sailor. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson as a big-ass man in the tutu and the shit that the ballerinas wear, just for a comedic effect. I'm not saying he's always been bad. I think, literally, no pun intended, he needs to know his role. He needs to understand his position and where he plays best, in which sandbox he belongs to. And that is stuff like he did initially with, like, Walking Tall. With, well, it wasn't great, wasn't Oscar worthy either, but it was more up his alley. What was that other one he did with Sean William Scott, I think? Shouts to him. I read somewhere that he actually started investing early. He was smart with his money. Instead of waiting for the next paycheck to come for the next project he would do, he started investing money. And it's like apparently really well to do with liquid funds. So good on him, Sean William Scott. The Getaway? I think The Getaway, one of those. Where he even got the rub from Arnold in that movie early on. Was that the one? Yeah, I think so. Where they're passing each other by in the club and Arnold's like he's all yours or something like whatever Arnold said. So shouts to Arnold too. Which unofficially was the rub for The Rock to be the next big, literally big, humongous action guy. He did well for himself. I mean, he is the highest paid actor still, I think, in all of Hollywood. I mean, imagine that, like 20 years something later from being in the wrestling ring, like throwing your body around for like 10, 20 minutes a night, seeing if you get enough pay worth the, constant stress on your body and your bones and joints, compared to now, like heading up production companies and picking projects you want to do at your own given time, and being so busy that apparently he had to like set aside 12 weeks to even make the Smashing Machine happen. For, again, the very short sliver of time they focus on the life and times of Mark Kerr. I think it's like 97 to 2000, that specific time period. So, first and foremost, again, right out the gate, this movie is mid at best, and that's the biggest disservice they do to Mark Kerr, who I am now, I wouldn't say a fan of like that, like I'm so in love with the guy I need to watch every single fight. I am, in due time. But I'm interested enough to find out more about him, not thanks to this movie, but because after this movie, I was able to find a copy, wink wink, of the Smash Machine documentary from 2002, which I would highly recommend a lot more than this project right here, 2025's The Smashing Machine starring Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. And let's not forget Emily Blunt. I was going to bring her up. Don't think I'm like anti-woman and like I'm going to make her play the back. No, she's at the forefront because in front of her, she's got these amazing tits, which, funny enough, when you compare her to the wife in the Smashing Machine documentary, I think her name was Dawn. Shout out to Dawn. Holy shit, what a fucking... She became the wife after the fact, but in the movie, she's the girlfriend the whole time. But talk about a trophy wife. Like, Emily Blunt And then the woman she's playing, pretending to be, both of them, absolute pieces. I want chef's kiss to them respectfully, of course, because I know Emily Blunt. Is she the one married to Jim from The Office, which I like as an actor? I just can't remember his name right now. John Krasinski? Something like that. I think they're the ones that married, right? I can't remember. Right. I wish I could be better, well versed in my white folk pop culture like that. But I love Jim from The Office, and I love Emily Blunt and whatever she's done, and just looking good. Period. But yeah, first and foremost, out the gate, I would highly recommend the documentary if you could find it first from 2002 over this movie, because this movie is literally at points in times copy paste from the documentary. If you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. Literally, The Rock was in charge of lifting scenes from the doc to bring to this bigger screen, flashier, pizzazzier production version of what they did back in 2002, which was raw, grittier, and obviously real, because it was tracking along with Mark Kerr at that time. It's crazy to think that, for me at least, this is my opinion. You can feel otherwise if you watched it and liked it, but The Rock, Dwayne, not only had, let's say, the Cliff Notes version of what the end result of this movie was with the doc from 2002, but he also was able to tap in directly to the source material from the origin itself, Mark Kerr, to retell all this shit properly, and it's still, to me, a very phoned-in job. Very lacking in comparison to the 2002 documentary, The Smashing Machine, an HBO production, I believe. I would highly recommend that over this movie first, because The Rock, let's shoot this down straight out the sky, go into your local sporting goods store, stack up on all the caps, what do you call it, snapbacks, fitted caps, whatever caps you got, anything with a cap on it, stack it up sky high, look at the very top one, and as loud as you can to the heavens, scream the cap when it comes to this movie having any sort of Oscar buzz whatsoever. Absolutely not. C-A-P, or the kids might spell it C-A-P-P, cap, as in lies. There's no Oscar buzz whatsoever for this film, especially for Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's acting. It is bad throughout this fucking thing. There's some moments where he kind of taps into like emotions he might be capable of feeling underneath all the HGH and steroids and what the fuck he pumped himself with to get into this role and look as big as he did. Oddly enough, sort of kind of like what Mark Kerr was doing to himself. No disrespect, of course, but that's what he's doing. It highlights that in the movie, but also you see much more of it and the end results of it in the doc from 2002. The Rock's acting on pure display here is bad. The man really did the worst job possible of having not just a doc, a blueprint to follow, and like he did in so many parts, copy and paste from the original thing to make this happen, and the guy the thing was based off of to be like, the doc did that, but I really felt this, and I would have said it like that, and then all this buildup about, I tapped into Mark directly, and I asked him how he would have responded to this conversation. Just to fuck it up. You fucked it up. I'm sorry. That's all there is to it. For example, there's one scene early on in the doc too, where he's at a doctor's waiting room, waiting to get his opioids. I'm not clear if it was opioids or just try to, back then, 97, like get steroids and like, fill out his massive fucking frame. Because Mark Kerr, the real life Mark Kerr too, at that time was just like a smashing machine, because he was like unstoppable, unbeatable in the fucking octagon and or the ring, but also because he was just humongous. He was a big fucking man, huge straps, shoulders, that kind of thing. He's in the doctor's waiting room, waiting to like stock up from the doctor. And he strikes up a conversation with a lady in both the doc and the movie. The doc version, the documentary, makes more sense. But the selling point, the thing that intrigues you most, is once you hear Mark Kerr legit talk, his actual voice, his size does not match his voice. It's not like he's talking like Mickey Mouse either. But it's like a lighter tone where he's trying to remind himself to be friendly because he can kill you with his bare hands if he really wanted to, kind of thing like that. But not necessarily effeminate, not necessarily like a sissy, and not trying to sound like he sucked helium or he's trying to embody Cartman or he's thinking about switching genders. Because in comparison to the movie, that same conversation in the waiting room with the random old lady, like, do you do that ultimate fighting thing, whatever, the barbaric shit you guys are beating each other up with? He starts off with, and throughout the movie, it's like he forgets at points, but he's like, we filmed it already, I don't want to do it again. And as per allegations, I'm ready to fill up my piss bottle, piss boy, come here, I'm ready to unload. Let's just keep it moving to the next scene. He has to remind himself to sound like the guy. And it's throughout like one or two lines, it'll like weave in and weave out. Like it's Dwayne, it's Mark, it's Cartman, it's whoever else he can imagine that this guy should sound like. Because, again, his voice don't match his body, his build. Mark Kerr I'm referring to. He's like, yeah, well, the Ultimate Fighting Championship, the UFC, as he does it, in that same mocking tone. It's more like, I want to do the movie about your life again, since the doc did it clearly better than I ever could, even though I can pump a lot more money into it. But I want to make fun of you because you look a lot cooler than I ever did. At least with this one doc versus the whole body of fucking films I've been in so far. That's just me. That's how I feel. That right there is proof right there. The man just killed his own Oscar-worthy buzz that he probably like fed to the fucking media itself. Just to be like, hey, just to put the word out there. This thing's, in Oscar talks already. The movie hasn't even come out yet. Oh, yeah, Oscar-worthy, blah, 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 whatever, already. Please. The man clearly paid for reviews because this shit is not good. When it comes to the looks of trying to look like Mark Kerr himself, I will give the team credit for that. The prosthetics on the face have him looking similar enough. And at some viewpoints, angles, I would think that's Mark Kerr. That just happens to be played by Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, who's like almost like, 5 inches taller than him, because I think Mark Kerr was billed at 6'1", and Dwayne's supposedly like 6'4", 6'5", something like that. Where they fuck up, and I swear I'm not saying this because I'm potentially jealous of any man with a head full of hair still in their 40s as I am now. But I promise you, The Rock had enough pocket change in his left or right pocket or back pocket where he keeps dollar bills and cents on hand to afford a better hairpiece than what the man had to work with, because Mark Kerr did not have the best head of hair. I can't even define what kind of hair he had, but the hair they gave The Rock to play Mark Kerr as was terrible, cheap, on the budget. I can't explain that part, but the man just penny pinched at that aspect. Emily Blunt, as I mentioned earlier, on the other hand, is a knockout, solid stone cold piece of drop dead fucking 10. And happens to be in the documentary when you compare it to the wife. I think her name was Dawn again. Smoke show too. I never realized Emily Blunt was that busty, to be honest. I always liked her face. Very pretty face. And I like her acting too. I like her as an actress. I respect her. I know she's like a producer or more involved behind the scenes as well too. But shout out to her. She looked gorgeous and she really played the part well. It's almost like you would never detect an accent of any sorts on her. She got into the role that well. The character though, to be fair, in the documentary, I know a lot of criticism initially was for her character not being fleshed out beyond like needy, dependent, like I get drunk and have fun while you have to put your body on the line and get addicted to opioids and painkillers and whatever else you put into your body for the sake of making a living. But I get to have beer because I know how to have fun and you're boring, you're not there for me, so what else am I supposed to do, kind of thing, like a needy bitch pretty much. That's how much she comes off as in the movie. To be fair, in comparison to the documentary, the doc didn't paint her in the best light either. So she came off not as needy, but just there and kind of like more attention hungry. Like, make it about me. I don't care about the pain your body's in. Make it all about me and my massive tits, because both of them had like great tits, respectively, of course. Because at one point, In the movie, at least, she refers to his fighting as his stupid fucking fighting, which she doesn't seem to understand. And that's where they take a couple of scenes from the documentary, which are like maybe not even a minute long themselves each. They take it and they flesh it out to try to be this drama piece where they could allegedly, supposedly put Dwayne's acting skills on pure display. There's one part, I'm going to jump to this part too, because there really ain't too much to recap. No offense again to Mark Kerr, it's just more like I'm more focusing on Dwayne's underwhelming performance. Nowhere near, not sniffing anywhere close to Oscar worthy whatsoever with this man. It's a practical joke, please. It's April Fool's like fucking, 8 months early to consider this man Oscar worthy for anything, especially in this movie. It's a shame too. But there's a part where she says, oh, you and your stupid fucking fighting, which, paid for the house they live in and for the cat she has. He probably bought her the cat. And she's one of those girlfriends where like, oh, the cat just like slashed up this expensive thousands of dollars worth couch. Let's just get another one, babe. Don't worry about it. Gets another one that's like, oh, won't you let the cat on the couch? I promise it will be good this time. Come on, you love the cat too and shit. But he goes to reach for the cat, like, rah, whatever. And there's one of those big ass hairy cats too. Not Angora, but like hairy enough where like someone like me with cat allergies, I was already like kind of scratching myself just watching the cat. Like, beautiful cat, don't get me wrong. I love cats, love animals, but can't be near cats. I get the hives immediately. But she's all in his business. She's riding his ass pretty much about, he does eventually get addicted so much to opioids and whatever else he was putting in his body. He has to go into rehab because he collapses, passes out, goes to the hospital. In the doc, yes, that's obvious there, but a couple of differences between the movie and the doc. In the doc, it's not just his friend in the movie, I believe Mark Coleman, shouts to him, he was good and fun to watch, but also in the doc too, it's like, that's his right-hand guy, his boy, at all times with him. But when he OD'd and went to the hospital, Mark and another friend of his, which I forget his name, I think Devin or something like that, they were both there for him and both talking to him like, you gotta cut this shit out. You're like too addicted to whatever you're using right now. Obviously, you're not going to be able to fucking focus. And this is all based off the fact that he had his first loss. He couldn't cope with it. He became unbearable and then just started like getting addicted to whatever he could put into his body to kind of cope, train harder, and hopefully get better. But he can never get over the loss. His first loss at Pride in Japan, which that was a funny part because they go over the rules before the actual fight. They make it part of the rules and emphasize that if the opponent is down with their face down towards the ground and you're on top, you cannot knee to the head because that's considered a foul or illegal. Which in the fight he has with the guy, I forget the name of course, he is getting kneed to the head. And because he's not responding, he freezes up for, I think, lack of poor training. I think they alluded to him like drinking beforehand with the girlfriend and all that. He didn't respond at all. He wasn't fighting back, so they just gave the other guy the win. He went to go bitch to like the organizer, promoter, say, hey, did the referee not understand Japanese, his own native tongue and language, because I'm getting kneed to the head here. Those are fouls. This shouldn't count, whatever. Just for them to overturn and say, okay, we ruled in no contest so you can stop bitching and whining, you overgrown fuck, kind of thing. I'm referring to Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson because with Mark Kerr, of course, in the doc, you see him really going through it, and you got to understand it. But with Dwayne's version, he's just like, I can't believe it. I keep looking at the fucking hairpiece. It's terrible. Every fucking angle he's at. And then again, that eventually leads up to him ODing because he can't cope with the loss, even though it got ruled a no contest anyway in his favor. He can't cope with the loss. He ODs. He's in the hospital. Now, again, in the doc, it's two friends at his bedside talking him out of like trying to do that shit again. He does. He gives up the shit. But before that, he breaks down and cries. And it's not like, oh, not like that in the doc. In the documentary, it's like the kind of crying a man of his size and how imposing he is would actually break down and cry when it just becomes too much. He's like, he pulls a bed sheet over his face and starts like sobbing a little bit, but lightly. And then, how you do when you cry. Shout out to the men out there that ain't afraid to cry. I cry when I see the fucking taxes they take out of my check every 2 weeks. Now, in comparison, in the movie, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, the actor, the thespian Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, of course, hams it up so bad where he can't even bother to pull the bedsheet as he did in the documentary. That would have been just legit copy-pasting. But instead, he puts his head in his hands and he goes, like a goddamn cartoon, which is insulting to what Mark Kerr was really going through at the time, but also putting on clear display that this motherfucker didn't even, like, stay awake during acting 101 if he even bothered with acting classes, as he allegedly says he did at some point. It was bad. He was giggling like a piglet instead of fucking crying legitimately like a man would at that time. Like, I lost. I built my body up to this fucking point in time and size, and this whole record I had up until my first loss at this big fucking, spectacle. And I can't cope, and now I'm on meds, and now my friends are telling me get off the meds because they're killing you. You can't do this to yourself again. Of course, it's a lot to take in at the moment, but this guy's still rolling. Like he's getting tickled, like just beneath the camera lens or something. It's a sight to behold. Okay, so he's able to kick the habit as far as the opioid usage out of rehab. There's a part where he goes to the carnival, like the local fair, with the girlfriend, right? She gets on this big ass spinning thing. I can't remember what it's called, but like you stand pinned against the wall and it just keeps spinning, whatever. And a lot of people like tend to vomit, and the vomit like travels all around circles too. He doesn't get on it because his tummy is like all upset because of the opioids and everything he used. But then later on, they cut to them sitting in the audience watching a Demolition Derby type of track thing going on, which I'd love to go to. I've never been to a Demolition Derby yet. It is funny. They don't allude to this, I think, in the doc. I don't think they show that part if they did at all. Maybe they just added it for the movie. Who knows? But as the Demolition Derby's going on, and there's one driver that's pinned like against another car. I forget how exactly they framed it, but one car's stuck and can't get out. The driver's like struggling to get out as another car just continues to smash. So literally machines smashing each other. And already he's getting PTSD. He's getting flashbacks to when he just like kind of froze up in that first loss he took at Pride, which I thought was a nice little touch. Artistic, directed influence probably. I don't know, that was a Dwayne executive decision, but that was a nice little, alluding to, past trauma. Maybe trauma, I guess you could say, because he like in the middle of the ring, like frozen up, getting beat up, and then the ref has to step in eventually after like 5-6 blows to the head and the size of your fucking body to be like, all right, I think he's had enough, guys, before he dies. So, of course, he's off the opioids. He's off anything he might have been using and abusing at the time. He eventually gets back to Pride because he wants to make his way back to make some money, of course, but also regain, literally, no pun intended, his pride from Pride and be a part of a tournament where the pot is $200,000. Him and his boy are there, Mark Coleman. Spoilers, Mark Coleman wins. This is like, based on actual occurrings in the past and shit. He's not able to make it back from his first fight. He freezes up again. I like what they did at the end, though. I'll give him that. After everything's said and done, pretty much, he lost. He's going back home, defeated, literally no money and shit. I'm sure he probably had some money, but he went home without taking the big one back home to kind of redeem himself. But at least his boy won. Mark Coleman won the whole thing since he had 3 kids and a wife to maintain. So $200,000, at least a quarter, that's going to go to diapers because a lot of kids are that young. So who knows? But either diapers or like dinosaur-shaped chicken nuggets mostly. So he goes back home. Blah blah blah. Flash forward to current time. Mark Kerr, where he doesn't look a thing like he did back when, looking at the footage in the doc, and or of course, The Rock looks nothing like him either, obviously, but at least he looks like he's back together with himself as far as like the machine and the man. You got to separate the two. I'm sure, it might not be as simple as like flicking on a switch when you're in the ring and then turn that off. It doesn't turn off that simple once you're done fighting. But it's good to see him healthy. At least he's making his way. He doesn't need a cane. He's not in a wheelchair. He's not like horribly decrepit or disabled or nothing like that. He just seems like he's good and at peace with where he's at right now. I did like that touch. That was very nice, at least to end it with. They allude to the fact that he did eventually marry the girlfriend after a big fight, and she wouldn't leave his home at some point because he had to lock in for training leading back into the Pride fight he was going to get back into. She wouldn't leave the home, turns into a big fight. She runs up to the fucking little safe he's got in the room, unlocks it, tries to grab the gat he's got there. It's not loaded, so she wants to shoot herself, but she can't even do that right. I'm just kidding, of course. She runs to the bathroom and she's about to off herself somehow. He's got to punch through the fucking door and shit to break it down. Of course, given it's Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, he's going to put into the budget, give me doors that look like I could rip through them like paper mache. But just to emphasize the drama, be it Mark Kerr and so frustrated the moment that I'm a machine and I'll rip through doors, rip them off the handle clean. No, I'm that much of an animal. I'll rip doors off to pieces as they still stand on the hinges and shit, which is the most action we get in comparison to the fights. The fights themselves, you see the doc, that's, the type of camera work you expect from a documentary. Like right there, kind of like running and gunning, capturing as it goes on, right? It looks good because there's actual contact, obviously, legit fights, all that implied. And that's why I'm surprised, because you would think Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, of all guys, having been a wrestler for so long and trained for so long, obviously doesn't want to hurt guys in there while he's in there. But he would be able to, as they call it, sell a little bit more realer, more convincingly. Like, not doing these half-ass kind of like, lunges for like a double leg takedown. Or, he's kind of throwing, but like he doesn't mean it. And a lot of times the angles are set up in the fights that they recreate where you can clearly see him missing. He's kind of like pulling his fucking shots. They're underwhelming. And also, I don't know the music they chose to play in the background too. It's like jazz or like some sort of shit they got building up. It doesn't match. It's kind of off-putting, if anything, and it just makes the match more boring. Like, it drags out the recreated matches to expose them more as like, well, what the fuck are they doing here? They're like playing with each other, like hugging each other on the fucking mat and just kind of rolling around and shit. But yeah, it's sad to see that the more impactful, more like action-packed moments are him just ripping through doors or like punching through shit or throwing shit, whatever, instead of the actual fights. That's me, of course. Obviously, I'm not training MMA or any of that shit, so what the fuck do I know? But I would think if you got the guy himself that lived through these fights, and you got a bunch of people on call that are trained in the sport they're emphasizing here in this doc, they could be like, you know what, Dwayne, maybe you want to do that again, but make it look more convincing, perhaps? Or aren't you a wrestler? Wouldn't you know how to do a proper fucking takedown and all this shit, whatever? But I digress. That could be just me wishing that. But I did expect more out of the movie. I was hoping it would have been actually at least decent or good for once, because considering Dwayne had like over 20 years at this point to maybe get good at this thing called acting. But it's wishful thinking at this point. It must be nice to have all that money and that budget afforded to you to buy the rights to this story, this doc, this man literally to tell his story and present it to the wider audience like that, in comparison to what the doc was, because you can't even find like a physical copy no more or on streaming. You gotta like dig and poke around to see where you can find the 2002 version of the Smashing Machine, the doc. But yeah, it was underwhelming. Could have been a lot better, and don't let anybody fool you into thinking this is going to be Oscar worthy at all, let alone for The Rock. Maybe the prosthetics team for making him look kind of sort of similarly enough like to Mark Kerr, but that's about it. And I had to say, not for Emily Blunt either. Does she have Oscars? Or was it the other one, Emily Stone? I got my Emily's mixed up, but shout out to her. She deserves an Oscar for those tits. They're great throughout the whole fucking thing. But as far as the final score, based off my new scoring system that I came up with myself, out of a possible 69, the best possible number, I'm going to go ahead and give The Smashing Machine from 2025, a brand new release starring Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and Emily Blunt. Out of a 69, I'm going to give it a 30. 30 as in it's halfway there, close enough to being decent enough. It looks good. It's shot pretty well, except the fights. The fights don't look good at all. Dwayne doesn't even look like he's trying hard. I think he just decided to play around a bit with the voice too much to have fun at his own expense and be like, oh yeah, if I show enough vulnerability via this guy, I'm bound to get an Oscar. God damn it. Why not? But no, it's not there. Emily Blunt, does good, but not Oscar worthy either. And the story itself is kind of like, It's the first time I watched something that was 2 hours long that I felt the 2 hours. Because a lot of times I was looking at my watch kind of like, it's not over yet kind of thing. Like, we kind of get the gist of it. And in comparison, you got the doc, the 2002 version, which is like an hour and a half. But at least that's more, pulling back the curtain, obviously, seeing a lot more than you expect from one individual that happens to be a MMA fighter like that. But it's a much more engaging and thrilling watch in comparison to the movie that is the fluffed up, presented to the mainstream version of The Smashing Machine. I'm sad to say it's not that great. It's all right. If you're really curious about it, go hit it up when it lands on streaming. I don't know which streaming service it's going to go to, but hopefully they make good use of it and or they know how to market that better than now. Because I'll be surprised. I didn't look at the box office number for this thing, or the budget, I mean to say. But if this does not make its box office or its budget back, I wouldn't be surprised, better yet said.
I saw this coming, and my God, I jumped on it with both hands and been holding on.
My ass! My ass!
When I think of asses, woman's ass, something comes out of me.
I don't eat ice, I kick ice! You stupid ice!
You cannot give up yet. You did not let me or my fat ass down, okay?
Yo, it's over. All right, it's over. It's over. Move the mic. Move the mic.
Thank you!
All right.